Belton sat on the southern edge of Kansas City, Missouri, the kind of place where high school routines and part-time jobs filled most days. In the spring of 2007, 17-year-old Cara Kapetsky moved through that world with a loud laugh and a blunt honesty. Friends came to her when they wanted the truth with no soft edges. At home, she was restless in the normal way teenagers are restless. She changed her hair and makeup often, tried new looks, and spent hours talking on the phone even after she had just been with the same people all day. Her mother, Rhonda, knew the pattern. Cara's bedroom door stayed shut. Her keys were always missing. When she forgot them again, she would climb through the window like it was a shortcut built just for her. Nothing about Cara's life suggested she was the type to vanish without leaving a trail. She had plans. She had a job. She had friends expecting her to show up. Friday, May 4th, 2007 began like any other school day. Cara arrived at Belton High School and followed her schedule until she reached a free period after 9 a.m. students came and went during open time. It was not unusual to step outside, make a call, get a snack, walk off stress, then return. At 19 a.m., surveillance footage captured Cara leaving the building. After that, she disappeared. She did not come back to class. She did not show up for her shift at Popeyes. She did not call her friends. She did not answer her phone. As the afternoon moved toward evening, the concern hardened into panic. Just after 5:12 p.m., her family contacted police. At home, the details didn't fit a runaway story. In Cara's room, the things she would normally take if she planned to leave for more than a few hours were still there. Makeup, clothes, her iPod, even a full pack of Marlboro Lights. Her hair straightener, the thing she used every morning, was still in place, but her phone was gone. It was a Motorola Razr she practically lived on, and now it was missing. The device had not been used since that morning. Her locker at school was searched. Her debit card was inside. There was no activity on her bank account. The usual signs of movement, purchases, calls, messages, all of it went silent. The timeline narrowed to a short window, and the last clear image of Cara Kapetsky was still that moment at 9:19 a.m., stepping out during her free period. The town tried to pull her back. Her MySpace filled with comments under her photos, messages that read like prayers and demands and promises. Searchers formed groups and walked streets, fields, and wooded patches day and night. Her face went on flyers, signs, and every surface people could reach. Tips poured in, more than 400 of them. Sightings were reported across the country, from Florida to California. Someone claimed she was on a plane. Someone claimed they saw her at Disney World, on a tram. The noise was enormous. The truth stayed still. The same day Cara vanished, a tornado struck Greensburg, Kansas. News crews were pulled toward the destruction. Cara's family pushed anyway, trying to keep her story alive while attention drifted to the larger disaster. In Belton, the search never really stopped. Posters stayed up. People kept walking, and behind the public search, one relationship kept rising to the center. Cara had recently ended a relationship with 18-year-old Kylr Yust. They had been together for about 9 months, long enough for a teenage relationship to start shaping a life. At the start, it looked like a match. Similar style, similar music. Kylr carried a reputation as the charming bad boy, popular, a lead singer in a band. But over time, Cara's parents noticed changes. Their daughter's spark seemed to dim. She became less like herself. On April 24th, Cara posted online about what those months had done to her. She wrote that she had dedicated her life to Kylr, leaving little time for friends or family, and that she had forgotten who she was. Now, she was trying to find that person again. 4 days later, on April 28th, the situation escalated into something far more dangerous. Cara reported that Kylr had kidnapped her. As she was leaving work, he forced her into his car. Later, miles away, he let her out. She obtained an order of protection served to him on May 1st. In the paperwork, she described choking and restraint. She described abuse worsening over time. She described fear about what he might do next. 3 days after the protection order was served, Cara was gone. When Kylr was questioned, he presented himself as worried and cooperative. He described missed calls and confusion. He suggested she had talked about running away to Mexico when she got into trouble at home. He framed himself as someone stuck in a nightmare he did not understand. But phone records told a tighter story. On May 4th, Cara called Kylr at 9:13 a.m. Kylr called her back at 9:20 a.m. 20 a.m. 1 minute after she was last seen walking out of school at 19 a.m. Those calls landed in a narrow slice of time when Cara's day broke apart. The difference between what he said and what the records showed put him under deeper scrutiny. Weeks turned into months, then years. In June 2007, a second case pulled attention across the same region. 18-year-old Kelsey Smith was abducted in broad daylight from a department store in Overland Park. Her case ended quickly and brutally. Her body was found 4 days later, and her killer was arrested the same day. For Cara's family, the contrast was unbearable. Another young woman disappeared, and the world got answers. Cara's case remained open space, but in Cass County, people refused to let it fade. Walks were held to keep Cara's name in motion. Searches were organized again and again. Reward amounts grew. The community kept showing up years later, still scanning the same landscapes. During that time, Kylr's life continued to unravel in ways that kept him on the radar. Trouble followed him. Drug charges, traffic violations, assault. He was estranged from his parents. He had diagnoses of bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder. He also had a history of drug and alcohol abuse, including cocaine use starting at 14 and heroin at 16. He admitted to forcing Cara into his car, the event that led to the protection order. He admitted to grabbing her during arguments, but when pressed about Cara's disappearance, he remained locked down, offering little that could be used as a direct path to her. And yet, the confessions kept appearing around him like a pattern. Over the years, several people said Kylr admitted he had killed Cara, including an ex-girlfriend and one of his band members. A girlfriend was asked to wear a wire, hoping he would speak openly. When she tried to pull the truth from him, his words moved in strange directions, drifting into talk about spirits, energies, and feeling Cara touch him. Then, in the middle of that, he said something that cut through the fog. He said he killed her. Still, the case did not close. Cara remained missing. By 2011, Kylr's violent behavior reached into another relationship. A girlfriend who was 6 months pregnant filed for a protection order. She described being choked repeatedly. She described being hit to keep her from passing out. She described him killing her 3 cats. She described him claiming he had killed people before, including ex-girlfriends driven by jealousy. He was placed on probation for choking and striking her. Animal cruelty charges followed. More arrests followed. Theft, traffic violations, drug trafficking. In November 2013, he received a 45-month prison sentence for drug trafficking. While incarcerated, he allegedly confessed again, this time to a cellmate, that he had killed Cara. In April 2016, he was released after serving most of his sentence. Nearly 10 years had passed since Cara walked out of Belton High School. Then, in September 2016, another young woman vanished in a way that snapped the region back into the same cold fear. On September 8, 2016, 21-year-old Jessica Runions went to a party with friends near Kansas City, Missouri, about a 10-minute drive from where Cara had disappeared. Jessica was building a life with clear direction. She worked as a pastry chef at a senior living community and had recently been promoted to manager. She was close to her family, especially protective of her 2 younger sisters. She checked in often, the kind of person who stayed connected throughout the day. That night, Jessica did not come home. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Within hours, her family knew something was wrong and contacted police. A few hours later, around 2 a.m., Jessica's car was found burned in a wooded area, miles from anything. Jessica was gone. The next day, she missed a doctor's appointment, an important follow-up after a recent 8th lumpectomy. Nothing about her life lined up with a sudden choice to disappear. Witness accounts from the party placed her leaving with a familiar face. It was Kylr Yust. He had been out of prison for about 5 months. He was described as drinking heavily at the party, agitated and snappy. He was supposed to be giving someone a ride home. Instead, Jessica vanished, and her car was found burned in the woods. Kylr's half-brother, Jessup Carter, told police he watched Kylr set Jessica's car on fire. Jessup also said Kylr told him he strangled Jessica and dumped her body in the woods. When Kylr was located, his face was covered in burns. He claimed he barely remembered anything due to how much he had been drinking, but he said he spent the night at his grandfather's house. His living situation reflected chaos. The trailer he had been staying in was in disarray, with weapons, pills, and old food scattered around. He was arrested and charged with knowingly burning a vehicle. He was held on a $50,000 cash bond. Jessup spoke publicly about wanting justice for Cara and Jessica, but even as Kylr sat in jail, the larger problem remained. There was still not enough evidence to charge him for either disappearance. People had claimed he admitted to killing both women. 7 separate individuals would, over time, say he confessed, but charges for murder did not come yet. Jessica's mother, Jane, had never heard of Kylr before this. When she looked him up and saw his connection to the unsolved case of Cara Kapetsky, she reached out to Rhonda Beckford. The two mothers formed a bond fast, sharing the same language of waiting and searching and living inside an unanswered question. For Jessica, the searches became relentless. Volunteers met with maps and ATVs, breaking into groups, combing the woods and rural edges around Kansas City. Her family turned their lives into a grid, working through it piece by piece, refusing to accept that a person could simply vanish. 6 months passed. Then the ground finally shifted. In April 2017, a man foraging for mushrooms in a rural wooded area south of Kansas City found bones. They did not look like animal remains. He called for help. Searchers moved through the area, and the next day, about 20 yards away, they found a second set of remains, including a skull. Some of the bones were quickly identified as Jessica Runions. The other remains had been there much longer, and testing would take more time. Rhonda Beckford carried a heavy certainty in her chest, a feeling she had held for years. 4 months later, the confirmation arrived. The remains found near Jessica were Cara Kapetsky. After nearly a decade, Cara and Jessica were no longer missing. They were found together in the same rural stretch of Missouri woods. The disappearances were now a double murder investigation. Kylr Yust was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of abandonment of a corpse. He pleaded not guilty. For the families, the return of remains brought a complicated kind of relief. Cara was back. The waiting for her location had ended. But the fight for accountability was just beginning. The case prepared for trial, and the list of witnesses and claims grew heavy. Jessup Carter was expected to be a major witness for the prosecution. Then Jessup died by suicide in jail. The loss removed a central voice from the case and left a gap that could not be filled. Delays followed. As the trial approached, the pandemic hit and pushed everything back again. Years slipped by with the charges hanging, the family still living in the long hallway between knowing and proving. In April 2021, the decision was made to try both cases together. Kylr wanted to testify, though, in court, the story hardened into its final shape. The timeline of Cara's last mourning, the history of control and violence, the confessions that surfaced again and again, and the overlap with Jessica's disappearance after Kylr's release, all of it sat in front of a jury. Without a determined cause of death, the legal path to first-degree murder was more difficult. The verdict reflected that challenge. Kylr Yust was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter in Cara Kapetsky's case. He was found guilty of second-degree murder in Jessica Runions' case. The sentences were set at maximums for those convictions. Life in prison for second-degree murder, 15 years for voluntary manslaughter. In Missouri, a life sentence is kept at 30 years. The sentences were ordered to run consecutively, totaling 45 years. Kylr appealed. In 2023, the Missouri Court of Appeals upheld the convictions and the outcome. By then, the story of Cara Kapetsky and Jessica Runions had become one long line, 2 lives pulled into the same ending, found side by side after years in the dark. Their families remained connected, linked by the searches, the waiting, and the moment the woods finally gave up what they had been hiding. Cara's younger brother, Thomas, had been 8 years old when she vanished. He grew up with her absence as part of the shape of home, spending time in the room she used to keep closed, missing the small moments that should have stretched across adulthood. Jessica's sister, Morgan, carried a different version of the same loss, the feeling of life continuing without the person who was supposed to be there for it. In the end, the disappearances that began on a quiet school morning in Belton and a party night near Kansas City were no longer mysteries of location. The question of where they were had been answered in the woods south of the city. And what remained was the settled outcome. Cara Kapetsky and Jessica Runions were taken, hidden, and left behind. And the man at the center of both timelines was sentenced to spend decades in prison for what happened to them.